Hey, blessings and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. We're in Exodus chapters 9, 10, and 11. And this whole three-chapter section is about the plagues that are coming upon Egypt and how Pharaoh reacts to these plagues and to the request that Moses makes to him through God to let his people go, and Pharaoh continuing to deny these requests. So as I read through these, you get this obvious sense that there's this struggle of authority throughout the entire three chapters. So we really want to focus on that today. We've got Moses obeying God's authority and doing what God tells him to do. And Moses does not act in rebellion in any way throughout this entire time. And I think that's really important for us to understand. And to that end, this is an extremely important example for all people to know as we move forward in our cultures and in our history, that even though the Israelites are facing difficult situations, at no point does God ever say it's okay to rebel against this authority. Now, one of the things that I hear Christians all the time say, well, we've got a leader who doesn't follow God, so therefore we don't have to follow him. That's not what we see in this example. Pharaoh doesn't follow God, but Moses still obeys the authority. And that comes out of Romans chapter 13 for us. That is a New Testament verse. That's not some it's Old Testament, we don't have to listen to that. Romans 13 says we have to obey the authority set before us because all authority placed on earth is from God. And we don't fully understand that because we think some authorities are bad. And why would God put that in place? Well, think back on Pharaoh. Pharaoh was bad. Think about Pontius Pilate, who ordered the crucifixion of Christ. He was a bad man, and we don't see all the instances in the Bible of the things that he did as far as killing people for no reason. You can read those in Josephus, who was a historian at the time and told the history of Israel from a secular viewpoint and just wrote a history. It's not a biblical book, but it confirms all of that and tells about how ruthless Pharaoh was. But even Jesus told Pharaoh, you have no authority except that which my Father has given to you. Jesus acknowledged that the authority came from God. Important for us to understand. So we see this authority that the Hebrews are under, but this authority doesn't acknowledge God and doesn't listen to God. But Moses and the people continue to obey his authority. God is over both and requires obedience from both. And that's what God is showing through these plagues. And it's going to get to a point where God is going to allow, through Pharaoh, through the authority, he's going to allow his people to leave. But the people wait until God makes a way for it. And Pharaoh, the authority set above them, says, go. Then they're allowed to leave. Again, continuing to obey the authority of Pharaoh. It goes back to a lot of times when I was a young officer, I would hear officers say, you got to treat people the way they expect to be treated or they won't respect you. Or you got to talk to them the way they expect to be talked to or they won't respect you. They only understand this kind of language. And the us versus them was, police officers versus all society. It didn't matter your economic status. It didn't matter the location you lived in. It didn't matter your race. It didn't matter what sex you were. It was just us and them, and we've got to be careful of that because the Jews did the exact same thing in the Old Testament. You were either a Jew or you were a Gentile. What was a Gentile? Well, it was all other races. It was all other people, no matter what country you lived in or what color you were. If you weren't a Jew, you were just you were in the all other category, and that's wrong. And so we can't do that. We can't treat somebody different because they don't obey the rules. Well, if they don't follow the rules or acknowledge the rules that I work under, then I don't have to treat them by those rules. That's not true. If you're in the country, you got to obey the rules, and we've got to treat you accordingly. So it's a really good lesson for us to understand that sometimes our authority may not follow God or acknowledge God, but it does not diminish the fact that we have to obey that authority. Now, you can go home every night and you can pray, Lord, this authority is just ripping me to shreds. Help me, please. That's what the Israelites did. They constantly prayed to God, and they said, man, Pharaoh is oppressive. He's not a good person. Lord, please get us out from underneath his authority. And God did. So prayer is a good way to do that. Also, pray for your leader. Not just pray to get out from underneath him, but pray for your leader and look for an opportunity to share with him. You might could change his heart. Anyway, great lesson tomorrow morning, Exodus 12 and 13. You guys be safe until then, and I'll see you tomorrow.